I want to spend just a little time talking about this aspect of emptiness and fullness, shunyavada and purnavada, because each one is a conception that contributes to the reality of enlightenment. And so understanding this can be very interesting. Now, we've talked about emptiness early on in the course, the no self, right? We've talked about that. And now, as I've mentioned, the Buddhists are great at emptiness, and the Theravada Buddhists are focused especially on the emptiness of self, no self, as do the Mahayana Buddhists. But the Mahayana Buddhists also take it further and talk a lot about emptiness of phenomenon. And this is an aspect of shunyavada, and I really admire the way they go into it. So I thought I would just quickly do a real fast summary because it's, again, it relates to enlightenment. So let's take the example. So not only is the ego like it's the result of false identification, like we talked of before. So it's like a phantom. It's not really, it doesn't have an inherent existence of its own. It's like a phantom. So likewise, the whole world is that way. And the compelling argument that particularly the Buddhists make about this, which really is interesting, is something that's called dependent arising. And what it means is like this. So take a tree. Imagine yourself out in the forest and you see a tree. Okay. Now, we perceive that tree the way we perceive everything, as having solid, inherent existence. You could take that tree outside the universe and it would still be a tree, right? Somehow, if you could imagine that, right? Because it's got an inherent existence. But that's how we perceive it right now. But actually, the truth of it is different. Because in actual fact, that tree's existence is entirely dependent upon a whole network of existence that includes the totality of all in time and space. In other words, that tree, it needs the earth, it needs the sun, it needs water, it needs air, it contributes to those in some way as well. And it needs biome in the earth, it needs, everything. Its existence is actually in a context of all of time and space. And its existence is interwoven with everything in time and space. That's its context, right? So in actual fact, you could not take that tree outside of the universe and it would still exist. Sorry, it just wouldn't. It doesn't have that kind of inherent existence. Its existence is a point that implies the totality of all existence. Okay, so all of time and space is actually inherent in every point of existence, inherent in you. So likewise, that's why you don't have an inherent existence either that way. You are the totality. So that's very interesting. So that is called dependent origination, dependent arising. It is the fundamental argument for emptiness. With the shunyavada, seeing everything as empty in this way implies that being is inherently active. Because what happens is the essence of every point in creation is all of creation, and it's all active. So there is no silent state of being. There's only being that's active. So the essence being is essentially active. If you've ever wrestled with that question, which I did in college as a philosophy major, right? So now let's take purnavada. It's a totally different concept. For purnavada, it's like this. And this is more the traditional system that the Sanatana Dharma, the system of Indian philosophy more typically. They also honor shunyavada, but they don't emphasize it so much, because the main thing is in this system in purnavada is that you take a thought. Let's just take our meditation, for instance. You start at the surface of the mind, you have a thought at finer and finer levels, thought dissolves. Yes, you're in a state of emptiness, but guess what? You still have awareness. You're still a sentient being. There's awareness left. And it's no longer confined by the boundaries of any experience. Usually awareness is like wrapped up in the boundaries of experience. But in this case, the boundaries of experience get refined and refined and refined, dissolve altogether. There are no boundaries. It is just unbounded awareness. So in that state, being is not active. It's completely silent, completely still. The innermost essence of me is this transcendent, pure awareness. Okay, so this is fullness. It's infinite. It's infinite. Yes, there's emptiness, but that's one side of the coin, but it's also infinite. So if you take, let's say you have a shunyavada person and a purnavada person meditating side by side. In both cases, if they're very advanced and experienced meditators, the mind will cease its activity. And so what will happen for the shunyavada? They're in emptiness. What will happen for the purnavada? That person is in fullness. But they're actually in the same state. The shunyavadan has not ceased to become a sentient being. He's just not interested in the awareness that he has in that state of emptiness. Okay, so, but he still has awareness. He has not blacked out. So actually it's the same state. If it's complete on both sides. So if the purnavadan has some aspect where he's making pure awareness a thing, then it's not the complete state of pure awareness. So that is the danger of the purnavada approach. So in any case, not to get too into all the little points of this, so you could say that these two systems are simply, so what's the difference? It's the concept, right? It's the human construct. And this human construct is a whole doctrine, and it guides the practitioner in their lifetime of practice. And so it's a guiding principle. So it's more than just an idea. It's a concept that it becomes a guiding force in their practice and a whole understanding, a whole view. But the fact is that it is arisen in human consciousness. So guess what? Actually, human consciousness is the source and is beyond every construct. So ultimately, consciousness, your human consciousness, is the ultimate truth that embraces and is the source of all constructs, whether it's shunyavada or purnavada. So anyway, now I just want to say, so what is enlightenment? So let's take that for a little bit, just very somewhat superficially, but it'll help, I think. So the difference is, I mentioned the purnavada meditates and he gets pure awareness. Okay. So at some point through lots of meditation, that pure awareness gets so, he gets so intimate and so familiar with it, and then recognizes, oh, that's my very self. So then that is the state of self-realization for the purnavada person. So, okay, self-realize, I am that. And then through continually experiencing the world and such, at first that is separate from all of this. Like I was saying last week, I think the space within the banyan seed is separate from the hall. But then eventually, in time, you start to notice, oh, well, the hall exists in space, so space permeates the hall. And you likewise, you start to feel that, oh, this self is actually permeating the environment too. And so then you start to rise to a state of unity. Instead of separation, where you're completely separate, you start to perceive unity. So if I'm looking at Femke, I see, she is myself. There's no difference. I am that, you are that. But there's other sort of areas of awareness. The context, again, which is like this room. So I may not feel that, this whole room is permeated by awareness. I'm just not attuning to that. So, like I said earlier, the meditation of the saints who have self-realized is to bring their awareness to the self and expand that into the whole context. So they start to see that this whole room is the peripheral vision. It's all myself. And then a quieter level of awareness. I'm aware of the outside, but right now I'm not really thinking about the outside, so I'm not seeing it in terms of the self. But then I start to feel, the whole world is myself. And then expanding even further, the whole galaxy, the whole universe, and all of time and space. So now again, I've come to that point, like the shunyavada person, where every point is the totality of existence. But in this case now, and that is, by the way, this is Brahman, when you see the totality of all existence in terms of myself. One homogeneous wholeness of awareness that I am embracing the whole totality of time and space. That whole context that the shunyavada person becomes aware of. Only now in terms of myself, that eternal silence. So now I have both. Brahman is both, encompasses being as active and being as silent. Shiva and Shakti. That's the two. Shiva is silent, Shakti is active. So anyway, that's the vision of enlightenment that I wanted to just introduce you to. Like I say, it's just a beginning of understanding, but at least it gives you something a little more specific to understand that it is perceiving the totality of existence as myself. So I hope that helps in some way.